So day 2 was my hardest day outside of the summit, and it just doesn't feel 5 miles, doesn't feel like it should be that long. We were crossing the Shira Plateau, which is one of the longest plateaus in the world. So it was a long, hot, just crazy day. It was one of the highest elevations. So you ended about 11,000 feet that I had personally been before, and I was really struggling a lot to get my breathing in check. So it was a frustrating long day for me. This was the whole team that morning, all of our porters and all those guides and good folks like that. So they were singing and dancing every morning, which was really fun. This was the start of day 2. So as I said, we would wake up at about 6 o'clock, have coffee, have a little breakfast. We would pack up our duffel bags, put them in the center for the guide crew. This was from my tent that morning. It was kind of interesting. So we would leave every day at about 7:15. The tents would be set up, everything would be set up. All of the team we had would tear everything down after we left, pack it up, carry it. Sherpas are required to be able to carry 100 pounds in addition to their stuff up the mountain, and they would have it set up for us when we got to the campsite at the end of the day. So they're not human. It was really, really fun to see. I think I have some photos of maybe the next one. So you can see they carry it on their head. Like it's just incredible what they do. And so we did like a Friday to Friday trip, and many of these guys got in on Friday with us and we're going back out on Sunday. So just really incredible. So this is more of the plateau. This was some of our team on that second day. Again, a very long day, but a nice reward at the end. So this is my tent. This was the first day we got kind of a really clear view of where we were going, which is also it was unbelievable. So beautiful. It's hard to believe that's even reality, really. So a fun end to the day. Day 3 was a little easier, so the cadence of the day kind of seemed to become the even days were terrible and the odd days were pretty easy. So that was good. So this was day 3. Was not a super difficult day. Again, you're just starting. You can see up here the elevation. So you're going to night 3 to Shira Camp 2. So just the end of that plateau as well. So again, a different zone that we were going through there, the moorland, so less greenery through there. And it got to feel more like Mars the further up you got, so you'll see that in some of the photos. This was one of our lead guides, Frederick. He really helped me up the mountain, especially on summit night. The two of us ended up together throughout summit night, so that was really, he was my favorite. So more of that camp. I was very frustrated at the end of that day, as you can see here. So just long, exhausting days, but really fun with the group. So day 4 was a tough day, a fun day, but it was an acclimation hike day. So we started at just over 12,000 feet and went up. You can see we had lunch at Lava Tower, which is just over 15,000 feet. So the goal was to kind of go up, acclimate a little bit, spend an hour or so at the higher elevation, and then come down and camp. So that was kind of the cadence. So you would hike high, camp low was the strategy there to keep you from getting too sick. So this is Alpine Desert, so it looks a little bit different as well. This was a lot of that hike. I loved it. So this is Lava Tower. You can see it's kind of snowing and sleeting, and from that point on, it kind of did that the entire time. So it got much colder, more of our Sherpas carrying up, and a little bit of, so the other side of Lava Tower, we came down, and we were in this very, very cool moorland area that almost felt like Dr. Seuss. So these Seneca trees were my favorite. They exist only on Kilimanjaro. So it was really cool to see those. That was a long, kind of wet hiking afternoon, but so cool. Just incredible things to see and fun. So day 5 was my very, very favorite day. So we got to do the Barranco Wall. So the Barranco Wall, you can see we only do about 100 feet of elevation in total that day, but we went 1,500 feet up a wall, rock climbing, traditional rock climbing. Got to the wall and then came back down to camp. So it was super fun. I love that day. I basically ran up the mountain. So you can see a little bit of it here, but it is more of the traditional, like you didn't have your sticks as you would normally have, and you were just climbing up the wall like a mountain goat, which was fun. That's also when we hit the cloud line. So from that point on, we were above where the clouds were, which is amazing. Like, how cool was that? So that was really neat to see. Day 6 was the day to base camp in the beginning summit. So again, you go through a couple of different zones there. So this is Augustine, who was our other lead guide at base camp. This is our view at base camp all afternoon, which was just so cool. So we got there probably 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Had a little bit of time again to unpack and figure everything out and get our bearings straight to prepare for summit night. So you summit through the evening. So this was gearing up for that. So we had dinner at about 5 o'clock that night. This is just a funny, like, don't go up here. It's going to be really not very fun. So we had dinner, and then the sun set at about 7:30. They sent us all to our tents to rest for a couple of hours before we began summit. This was sunset that night. Again, that's my tent. So this is what it looked like every morning and every evening. It's like just crazy. It's crazy. So we did that. So they woke us up at about 10:30 that night, and we got dressed in all of our gear. Let's see here. So we got dressed in all of our gear, ate a little bit of sort of breakfast at midnight, and left at about 11:30. So this was a super, obviously, long day. So we begin at base camp at 11:30 at night, and we're hiking through the night to get up to summit. So from base camp to summit, it's 3 miles, but it's 4,500 feet of vertical gain. So it is just straight up, and they don't really do switchbacks there. So just straight up. And I think one of the reasons they do it at night, it's a volcano, so the scree freezes, so that makes it a little easier to walk on. But also, it just like you would see it and say, no thank you, I would like to pass. So not being able to see was really helpful. Yeah, so it was so dark. You could everyone had headlamps, but you could really only see the boots in front of you the entire time, which was needed. But you go through several, so this day we go through several different zones. So this is a little bit of summit night. This is what it looked like most of the time. So you're packed in pretty tight with each other. Here I have my chief's hat. Packed in pretty tight with each other. You can kind of see Moshi where we had originally came from. And the only thing you could really see as you're going up are other teams. So you can see base camp a little bit down here. But this is what it was, and it was tough. And for me, I hadn't had any altitude problems. I had certainly never been that high. I'd been to about 12,000 feet. I hadn't had any problems, and then I hit 16,000 feet, and my body was really, really over the whole situation. So I got super sick, got nauseous, threw up, which was fun in a whole group. Everyone was kind of getting, I wasn't the only one, but got sick, and then from about 16,000 to 18,000 feet, I was sick every 30 minutes or so. So fell, it was not enjoyable, but you're on the side of Kilimanjaro, so you kind of just going to roll with it, right? So I was determined that I was not going to get sick enough that I was going to be this close and not make it to the top. So I did throw up about every 30 minutes between 16,000 and 18,000 feet. So because of that, I got to go with just Frederick, who I mentioned. So I fell a little bit, about 30, 35 minutes behind the rest of the group, but we could still hear them. We were close enough. It was fine. But Frederick was like a hero. I mean, it was like changing clothes for me, giving me coat. It was sort of like being an infant as I was just walking up this mountain in the cold. It also snowed and hailed while we were coming up. So 20-mile-an-hour winds, it's negative 20 degrees. You're in all of these clothes, bundled up, going up in the dark. So it is as bad as it sounds. But you are rewarded with a sunrise like this. So you're so high up, you can kind of, I think you can hopefully kind of see it. You can see the curvature of the earth where you are when the sun comes up. And by this point, I had caught the group enough that I was close enough that I could hear the guides. And as the sun was rising, all of our guide teams started singing How Great Thou Art in Swahili, which was beautiful. So really cool, a nice reward. So we made it to sunrise. We were just a little bit short of the fall summit, which is Stella Point. So that is where things kind of flatten off, thank goodness. So this view is, I'm kind of leaving Stella Point, heading up to Ubru Point, which is the official summit. And it's about a 45-minute walk from there. Then you get to summit. And it is wonderful. And you can see, so as I mentioned, it is a volcano. The crater is down here, and it is filled with a glacier. So there are glaciers all around. I have photos of that as well, which was just unbelievable to see. You're walking amongst all of these glaciers. That likely won't exist by 2050 is what we were told. So this is the whole team up here. So of all of our climbers, we have 22 donors, 20 who made it to summit. So pretty good rate for everyone. I can hear the glaciers, like just really cool, really neat to see. Spent a little bit of time there. We really only spent about 15 minutes, so you do 6 days of climbing to be up there for about 15 minutes. It's a good return on your investment there. But it was beautiful. So at this point, it's probably 8 a.m. So we have been climbing since 11:30 the night before, and what goes up. So then we head back down. So it was about a 3.5-hour climb from summit back to base camp, where we had started that evening before. This is base camp again. When we got there, we had about an hour to eat lunch, change clothes, pack our bag, and then begin the 7-hour descent. So that was the worst. So in total, we were climbing for about 36 hours straight with about maybe 2 hours of sleep in between. So that was a tough day, all in. But then we ended, so day 8 was our last day. So the previous day we went down to 10,000 feet. So in sum, you kind of go from 13,000 up to 15 to base camp, up to 19,300 to summit, back to 15, down to 10 before you stop. So this day was much better. Our last day, we started at 10,000 feet, and it is incredible. You feel like you're almost underwater. The difference in your ability to breathe, even from 19,000 to 10,000, is night and day. So that was much easier. Everybody was very relaxed. There was a lot of singing and dancing, and we were back in the rainforest for the last day. So most of the trail kind of looked like this. And as I had mentioned, you kind of see some of them starting to assemble. We were very fortunate to see national media coverage. Because of that, the park rangers in Kilimanjaro picked up on it, and so we were met at the gate after having not showered for 8 days by 100 reporters from Tanzania, yelling and all of the things. So that was really wild. So they have one national news channel in Tanzania, so we were covered everywhere. So we got to the airport a couple of days later, people were really like stopping. American kidney climbers, are you ready? So it was wild. But exactly what you want to see at the end, which is really cool.